Welcome to the Cognigy user training. What is Cognigy? Cognigy is a platform to build conversational AIs without having to write code. Our conversational AIs are built by editors and are talked to by contacts. Contacts can come from various channels, such as web chat, Facebook Messenger, or Alexa. For any incoming message, a flow is executed, and the flows determine what the AI will say and do. Editors use the Cognigy user interface web application. Each editor has their own account. Each editor can have different access rights to projects and tools within the UI. AIs are organized in projects. Projects are like folders that contain flows, lexicons, playbooks, forms, and more. All of these entities are available to other entities in the same project. Flows are logical sequences, like a visual program. Flows are executed on every incoming message. Flows are always executed from the start, not hopping from node to node. Flows are made up of different nodes, some for logic and some for functionality. They are created and edited in the flow editor. Lexicons contain words that we want our AI to understand. Usually these are nouns that are relevant to the domain of the AI, such as ham and cheese for a pizza bot. These are defined by the editor inside the lexicon editor. AIs can be tested within the Cognigy UI by using the interaction panel. The interaction panel is available anywhere in a project. You can open the interaction panel via the interaction panel button in the app bar. You can select the target flow and version via a drop-down in the interaction panel. When opening a flow, the interaction panel will set that flow as a target. You use the Cognigy UI to build conversational AIs. I'll walk you through the main interfaces within Cognigy and, in doing so, introduce some key concepts. In Cognigy, AIs are organized in projects. When you log into Cognigy, you're presented with a list of the projects you have access to. All of the flows, lexicons, playbooks, forms, and other components you create within a project are accessible to the other entities within a project. When I open a project, I see all of the components of the project. At the top of the list are the flows associated with the project. I'll open a flow now in the flow editor. Flows are logical sequences that describe how a conversation works. Flows are executed from left to right and top to bottom. All flows start with a start node. To edit the start node or any other node, you click on the vertical ellipsis on the right side of the node and click Edit. Alternatively, you can click on the node and press the E key on your keyboard, or just double-click the node. Now I'll enter text into this field and click Save Node. To create a node, click on the vertical ellipsis, select Create Node, and then choose a node type. We'll talk more about node types later. You'll often want to sort nodes. To do so, click on the vertical ellipsis, select the sort order, or move the sort up or down. You can also do this using your keyboard by clicking on the node and clicking Shift Up or Shift Down. When you click on the vertical ellipsis, you'll see other capabilities for node management, such as copying and pasting, deleting, and adding comments. I interact with the flow using the Interaction panel. You can access the Interaction panel by clicking the chat icon in the app bar at the top of the window. I'll walk you through the basic features of the Interaction panel now. We'll learn about more features later. You use the Interaction panel when developing flows. It's your tool to try out your flows as you're building them. To talk to your flow, type directly into the text message box. The responses from the AI appear in the chat window. You can select the flow you're talking to at the top of the Interaction panel. You can also select a specific version of the flow or use the latest version. To make the chat easier to read, you may sometimes want to clear the chat window. You can do so by clicking the dots in the top right corner and selecting Clear Chat. For some flows, you may want to present output for the web chat experience, the Facebook Messenger experience, as well as for other channels. In this case, the Interaction panel will show all of these outputs in its response. In this example, standard replies are marked with the Cognigy icon here, while Facebook Messenger replies are marked by the Messenger icon here. For each standard reply, you will see the text of the reply along with any data that is passed with it. By default, you'll just see the open and close curly braces. Each project can have any number of lexicons. I'll go back to the project dashboard to show the lexicon editor. We'll learn more about lexicons later. Lexicons are a list of terms, and each term can have any number of tags and synonyms. You can enter a new tag by clicking the Enter a New Key phrase at the top of the window. Type your new key phrase and press Enter or click the plus sign. The new key phrase appears at the top of the list. You can assign a tag to your key phrase by clicking the plus sign in the Tags column next to the key phrase. You can just type in the name of your key phrase and press Enter. You can add a synonym in a similar fashion. To find a key phrase, you can use the search box in the upper right corner. Finally, to delete a key phrase, you can select the box next to the key phrase and click Delete at the bottom. Alternatively, you can click the down arrow next to the key phrase and click Delete there. To summarize what we've learned in this video, we've seen the project list, the project dashboard, and learned about project components. We've looked at how to create, edit, and sort nodes. We've seen how to use the Interaction panel, and we've learned how to use the Lexicon interface. Editing flows. Flows are edited in the Flow Editor. All changes are immediately saved and fully versioned. Nodes that make up a flow can be created, viewed, edited, and deleted in the Flow Editor, given sufficient access rights. The Flow Editor supports basic keyboard commands such as copy, cut, paste, sort up, sort down, and edit. Cognigy flows connect a series of nodes together. In the flow editor, we have the following node types. Cognigy nodes contain the default functions provided by Cognigy. Logic nodes contain logical structural elements. Code nodes can execute JavaScript code which the author entered. Custom nodes are nodes which are custom developed by you or other partners. Basic nodes. The system contains a large number of nodes. In the user training, we'll focus on two important basic node types, the say node and the yes-no question node. A say node sends text and/or data to the user. Say nodes can include special formatting which can be applied for Facebook, Alexa, and Google Actions. A yes-no question node asks the user a question, expecting a yes or a no answer. These nodes execute a specific child flow when a valid answer is given. Within Cognigy nodes, you can use a scripting language called Cogniscript. Cogniscript allows an author to insert dynamic tokens into the output. We'll discuss more about this later. Cogniscript is a superset of JavaScript, meaning you can write JavaScript code inside the tokens. I'll talk about working with nodes in general and show two specific node types, say nodes and yes-no question nodes. We author flows in the flow editor. Changes made in the flow editor are immediately saved in a draft state. A new version is created every time you click the Save button. The flow editor supports basic keyboard commands such as Ctrl-C for copy, Ctrl-V for paste, and others you see here. I'll now review basic node creation, editing, sorting, and versioning. To create a node, go to the project dashboard, click on the plus sign, and select the top icon. Name the flow. Select your flow language, and click Create. Now I see an empty flow with just a start node. You create new nodes by clicking the vertical ellipsis on the right side of the node. I'll create a say node. You can edit the node by clicking the vertical ellipsis and selecting Edit. You can also click on the node and press the E key on your keyboard. Alternatively, you can double-click on the node. The simplest use of the say node is to send a basic text output to the user. I'll say alpha. Now I'll open the interaction panel and say hello. The flow sends alpha back to the client. I'll create another say node and enter Bravo in the say field. When I enter hello in the interaction panel now, Cognigy sends both alpha and Bravo back to the user. Cognigy executes nodes from left to right and top to bottom. If I sort the Bravo node to the top, the order of the responses sent back to the browser changes. I like the state of this flow, so I'll save the flow by clicking the Save Flow button in the top right corner of the flow editor. When I do this, note that a new version is created. I can optionally enter a comment describing the change and click Save. A new version has been created. I can now create a new Say node and enter Charlie in the Say field. This puts the flow now into draft mode. I can switch the flow editor to a previous version by using the drop-down menu at the top. When I switch back to the prior version, the Charlie node is no longer present. When I switch to the latest version, Charlie appears again. In the interaction panel, I can choose which version to interact with. In the latest version, I get 3 responses: Bravo, Alpha, and Charlie. In the previous version, I get 2 responses: Bravo and Alpha. Say nodes can do more than just output basic text to a user. I'll show 2 features of Say nodes: text variations and channel-specific outputs. To start, I'll edit the Bravo node. Text variations can be used to provide a more natural experience for your users. When you enter multiple values into the Say field, Cognigy will cycle through them randomly. Selecting the linear toggle will loop through them linearly. Selecting the loop toggle and the linear toggle will loop through the Say nodes repeatedly. I'll add some additional entries in the Bravo node. And I'll test this a few times in the interaction panel. We can provide different outputs for different channels. Channels are named for the experience in which the interaction is initiated. For example, the Facebook Messenger channel is used for requests originating in Facebook Messenger. Each channel has a different format based on the capabilities of the channel. The Alexa channel can be used to output text to an Amazon Echo, cards for the Amazon Alexa app, and display templates for the Echo Show. You can find more information on creating Alexa skills in the Cognigy documentation. The Facebook Messenger channel allows you to create user interface elements that are richer than simple text. These also appear in the default Cognigy web client. You can experiment with these to test out different user interface options. You can find visual examples by searching for Facebook Messenger templates online, as you see here. Now I'll show you 2 samples. First, I'll show text and quick replies. This option provides buttons for a user to click that send a message back to Cognigy. And you'll note I see a preview in the right-hand pane as I populate the template. I'll start by adding text. And then some quick replies. And you'll see a preview of that here in the right-hand panel. Now I'll show buttons. I'll start off again with some text. And now I'll add some buttons. Note that I have the option to provide a URL or a postback. A URL will link to a website. A postback will send an input back to Cognigy. I'll save and we can preview in the interaction panel. And you'll see I have Alpha and Bravo here. I'll click on Bravo and that's sent back to Cognigy. I'll now talk about yes-no question nodes. Use a yes-no question node when you're looking for an answer to a basic question that only requires a yes or no as a response. After a yes-no question is asked, Cognigy will listen to the next 3 messages to see if a positive or negative answer is sent. If so, it will execute either the onYes branch or the onNo branch. Note that a yes-no question node does not prevent the rest of the flow from being executed. However, you can stop the flow execution after a yes or no is received. To illustrate this, I'll delete the other nodes, then create a yes-no question node. And I'll ask the question. I'll also stop the flow execution if the user says yes or no. You'll see the effect of this when I demonstrate the flow. Now I'll create say nodes for both the yes and no cases. Now I'll start interacting with the flow. The flow asks, is it alpha? But I need to think before I give a response. The flow executes completely and asks me the question again, but I still need to think. The flow executes again. I've decided now that the answer is no. And now Cognigy outputs it is no, based on what I configured in the onNo node. This example demonstrates a few points. First, you can ask a yes-no question. Cognigy will re-execute the flow until it receives a positive or negative response. When an expected response is received, a subflow is executed depending on whether the user responded affirmatively or negatively. You can optionally tell Cognigy to stop execution of the flow when it receives an affirmative or negative response. Lexicons and slots. Slots are categories with specific attributes. Cognigy's NLP detects a number of predefined slots inside user sentences. These include date, duration, number, age, temperature, and email. You see descriptions of these slots here. Lexicons include all domain-specific words that we want the AI to detect. We create lexicons in the project overview. We edit lexicons within the lexicon editor. Lexicons are not versioned. Every change is immediately live. When a key phrase is found within a sentence the user has said, this key phrase is exposed to the flow as a slot. Lexicons can be down and uploaded as CSV files and can be created via the API. Cognigy uses natural language processing, commonly referred to as NLP, to detect certain terms or ideas. We refer to these as slots. Cognigy detects a number of predefined slots inside user messages, including date, duration, number, age, temperature, and email. For example, if a user were to say, "Tomorrow it will be 30 degrees, Cognigy would recognize tomorrow's date and the temperature 30 degrees. If you want Cognigy to recognize domain-specific terms, such as product names, categories, or features, you'll add them as key phrases in a lexicon. Lexicons are a list of domain-specific terms that can be associated with tags and synonyms. We edit lexicons in the lexicon editor. Note that unlike flows, lexicons aren't versioned. When a key phrase is found within a sentence, this key phrase is exposed to the flow as a slot. I'll walk through creating a lexicon, attaching it to a flow, and seeing its effect on found slots. To create a lexicon, I'll go to the project dashboard. I'll click on the plus sign and select the second icon from the top. I'll give my lexicon a name. Now I can enter terms either by typing them in at the top of the screen or by uploading a CSV file. I'll upload a CSV file and my entries will appear on the list. I can choose to add additional tags or synonyms. After you create a lexicon, you need to attach it to a flow. I'll go to my basic flow I'll click on the lexicon icon, and then I'll click the toggle next to the lexicon name. Now let's test it. I'll delete the other nodes to simplify the chat. Now, with the interaction panel open, click on Settings and enable Expert Mode. In Expert Mode, I can see which key phrases have been identified by Cognigy's NLP. I'll enter my text message. And now you can see that Cognigy recognized both the key phrase and the slot. Lexicons are used when identifying slots and, as we'll learn later, they improve intent detection. Intents. The Cognigy AI tries to make sense of what the user is saying. It's trying to identify the intent behind the user's words. For example, if the user says, "I want to buy a pizza," the intent is to order a pizza. Or if they say, "Play a song by Dr. Dre," the intent is to play a specific song. The system can't know all possible intents, as intents are very domain and application specific. So an editor creates a number of intents with example sentences for each flow. In this training, we focus on machine learning intents, which are intents that use example sentences. Intents are created in the flow editor by opening the Intent Editor and clicking Add ML Intent. Each ML intent has a name, example sentences, and default replies. You don't need to enter all possible example sentences, as the system will generalize from your examples. Intents can be tested directly from within the Intent Editor. Navigate to the Test section, enter your test sentence, and you will see the results of the intent mapper for your intents and example sentences. When a user triggers a text input, the Cognigy AI will compare the user input against all admin-supplied example sentences and assign a statistical probability that it matches. In the end, there will be one winning intent, which is the one with the highest score. That intent is available in the flow as ci.intent. You can then easily use if and switch nodes to work with that intent. The Cognigy AI tries to make sense of user inputs by discerning the intent expressed by their words. Intents are domain and application specific, and they are scoped to the objectives of your AI. You describe the intents that you want your flow to handle using the Intent Editor. I'll show the steps required when creating an intent. I'll go to my basic flow and click on the target icon. In the lower right corner, I click on the plus sign, and then the top icon to create a machine learning intent. I'll call it Basic Question. Now I need to provide example sentences that teach Cognigy different ways a user may express the same intent. Cognigy won't just look for exact matches to these intents. It will use these as starting points to populate a machine learning model. Over time, Cognigy will get better at matching this intent to appropriate user inputs. I'll enter some example sentences. When creating intents, you should add as many as you can think of. Be sure to scroll to the bottom of the Intent Editor and click Save before leaving this screen. Note that I can also add a confirmation sentence. The confirmation sentence is used when the user input doesn't quite reach the statistical threshold to match an intent. Cognigy can ask a confirmation sentence to clarify the user's intent and improve its model. Optionally, you can add a default reply that Cognigy will send to the user when it's matched the intent. You can test these intents directly within the Intent Editor by clicking Test at the bottom of the screen. You can enter sample inputs to see how Cognigy analyzes them. Note that you will typically create multiple intents, allowing your flow to handle different kinds of inputs. For each input, Cognigy will determine the user's intent by selecting the intent with the highest statistical match. Cognigy comes with pre-built intents that provide simple responses to users. We call these Smalltalk intents. You can enable a Smalltalk intent in your flow by clicking the paperclip icon, then select a Smalltalk flow. In the Interaction panel, I can now conduct simple conversations. We've seen machine learning intents. Later, we'll learn about other kinds of intents and how you can use intents in your flows. Contact profiles. Cognigy can store persistent information about your users. This information can be used for personalization or analytical purposes. The contact profile is persisted, meaning it is stored indefinitely until it is either changed or deleted. All contact profiles can be viewed in the Contact Profile tool. Editors can manipulate contact profiles directly from within a flow using either nodes or code. Profile schemas. The data that an organization wishes to collect about their users can vary greatly. While a clothing retailer might want to store the t-shirt size of a customer, an airline might want to store destination preferences. Thus, each organization creates a profile schema, which includes all the fields that they wish to store about a user. Only fields that exist in the schema can be saved. Profile schemas are edited inside the Contact Profile tool. In the Contact Profile tool, we see an overview of all contact profiles for this organization, and we can access details on each contact, including a conversation history. The schema editor can be found on the upper right. Profiles and GDPR. Europe's privacy regulations make it mandatory for companies to enable customers to query what information is stored about them and request deletion of such information. In Cognigy, contact profiles can be exported, which will produce a data object containing all information collected about this contact. Contact profiles can also be deleted, and the collection of future data can be prevented. If required, collection of contact profile data can also be turned off completely, meaning Cognigy won't store any personal identifiable data about any contact. In flows, editors can insert a check at the start of the flow to make sure that users have to accept data collection before the flow proceeds. Cognigy can store persistent information about your users in contact profiles. I'll show the Contact Profile tool and talk about its features. You access the Contact Profile tool by selecting Contact Profiles at the top right corner of the screen. In the tool, you'll see a list of users who have accessed your flows. When you click on one of those users, you'll see a list of their sessions as well as information about them, such as first name, last name, and email. These reflect Cognigy's standard configuration. You can add additional fields that make sense for your business. To do this, go to the Contact Profiles list, and in the upper right corner, you'll see a button labeled Schema Editor. Click on Schema Editor to see a list of fields that are currently tracked. To add a new field, click on the plus sign at the lower right corner of the screen. This allows you to create a new field that will be available as an attribute of the users interacting with your flow. Let's go back to a specific profile and look at their conversation history. When I click on a session, I see the full chat history for that session. Note that while Cognigy collects data about users, it is also GDPR compliant. Contact profiles can be exported or deleted, and we can also disable data collection entirely for an endpoint or for a specific user. Cognigy allows users to update profiles from within the Flow editor. To do so, you can use one of several marketing nodes. Let's update a profile by creating an Update Profile node. First, I configure the node with the profile attribute I want to update. I'll choose first name. Next, for the value, I'll enter John. In a real scenario, we would most likely populate this field based on user input or from data we've accessed from another system such as a CRM. Cognigy persists data from a single input, from an entire session, and with contact profiles across multiple sessions. Analytics. If configured to do so, Cognigy tracks detailed analytics about conversations. This data can be used to evaluate usage of an AI, but also to improve the AIs by teaching them previously misunderstood inputs. Analytics are exposed directly within the Cognigy UI, but are also available through an OData endpoint for integration with existing BI tools. Cognigy also offers connectors to Google Chatbot and Dashbot, two third-party analytics tools.